Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us here today. We are at the UN Ocean Conference in Lisbon, Portugal with Congressman Alan Lowenthal from California. Thank you for joining us.
I'm pleased to join you. Pleased to be here.
Thank you. Congressman, what brings you here and why are you so excited to be here at the UN Ocean Conference after a couple years of hiatus?
Well, I think that there's a great excitement, that's it, and there's a sense of the great importance by everyone that's here and the real need to talk to each other and to look for solutions and the crises that the oceans and the planet feels, educating ourselves and the rest of and others who may be watching it on the relationship between the radical climate change that's occurring and the impacts upon our oceans, and the understanding that our oceans are tremendously important. There is no life on this planet without healthy oceans, and sometimes, over the years we've looked at our oceans as dumping grounds. The way we deal with pollution was to dilute it by sending it out, and the solution to pollution was dilution. And it's only been the last 10 or 15 years that we've come to grips with that is destroying the quality of life and life on this planet for all animals, for all people, and the solution to pollution is prevention, not dilution. And we've got to measure that by the health of our oceans.
Congressman, you've long been an advocate and champion to solve the plastic crisis that we have, and lately, thankfully, we're starting to see movement at all levels. Can you tell us why plastic pollution is more than an ocean pollution issue? Why is it a social justice issue, human rights issue?
Right. Well, plastic pollution is really part of the larger, and we're becoming more aware of it every day, and we're really understanding that plastic pollution is a major component of the climate crisis, of what's occurring. Plastic pollution is a product of the 1950s and 60s of the throwaway society. We got plastics and the tremendous convenience of plastic, because you could just get rid of it and throw it away. Not thinking that once it's out of sight where it went. We then began to think that we were recycling it. We had set up recycling bins. We didn't realize that less than 8 or 9% of all the plastic ever ends up in recycling bins, and of the plastic that's in those recycling bins, only 3% is actually recycled. So 95 to 97% of the plastic ends up in incinerators, ends up in the ocean, ends up in landfills. There's a crisis. So the first thing we said is, let's develop a plan where the people that produce the plastics that pollute, that they are going to be responsible for funding, for developing recycling, for composting. They will pay for it. They will do it because they're making all this money on this. And we also said we've got to recycle. We've got to have a bottle bill in a comprehensive, so that there's incentive for doing it. We have to have national standards that we increase in terms of any material, any plastic product, that we increase every year the amount of recyclable material in it. We have to look at those communities that are most impacted by plastic facilities, the development of those, and begin to protect those communities by saying maybe we should do a pause until we look at the health of the communities where we have all these facilities. And we're also talking about, in the next 10 years or so, 10 to 15 years, that 20 to 25% of all the fossil fuel will go into plastic, the development of plastic. So we're talking about fossil fuel companies who have realized that the growth of plastics will replace fossil fuels that went into the internal combustion engine, which will no longer be there. So it's an amazing, it impacts everyone. And it's about time that we took a larger, more comprehensive approach, and just like I said earlier, that we prevent it. We keep it from going in. We look at those pellets. We talk to EPA about setting up rules and regulations about when they give out permits to these large facilities, or the transportation of the pellets that go into the creation, that they do not dump it into the water. That will be part of their clean water permit. That will be part of their stormwater permits. Right now, there is no problem. There is no one is responsible for the dumping of the pre-production pellets into the ocean. No one is. Just like no one is responsible for cleaning up except local groups that want to. This all has to change. We have to build in accountability and responsibility. Look at those communities that are the most impacted by it, those frontline communities. Look at the public health of those communities, and begin to say, if you're producing it, if you're making money, you're responsible for cleaning it up. And we have to set standards by which, if we're going to have plastic out there, we've got to make sure that we're recycling it. And those communities, those groups, those that are creating it, will have to do it. We're going to set if you're going to create plastic, it has to have a certain amount of recyclable material every single year, and based on national standards, and we're going to raise it every year.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for joining us today.